The desert wind moved silently across the cliffs of ancient Ethiopia as monks guarded a manuscript that most of the world had forgotten even existed. Inside its pages were stories too strange for many believers, too dangerous for some religious authorities, and too mysterious to disappear completely. It described angels descending from heaven, forbidden knowledge given to humanity, giants walking the earth, and a catastrophe so great it nearly erased civilization itself. This was the Book of Enoch, and for centuries it became one of the most controversial writings in religious history. The story begins long before Christianity existed, during the turbulent world of ancient Judaism in the centuries before the birth of Christ. Across the Middle East, empires were constantly rising and collapsing. Babylonian kings conquered Jerusalem. Persian rulers rebuilt temples. Greek armies swept across the region after Alexander the Great. And amid this chaos, Jewish writers began producing increasingly dramatic visions about heaven, judgment, angels, demons, and the end of the world. The Book of Enoch emerged from that environment. Although traditionally attributed to Enoch, the great-grandfather of Noah mentioned briefly in Genesis, scholars believe the text was actually written by multiple authors between roughly the 3rd century BC and the 1st century BC. Yet the mystery surrounding Enoch himself made the work instantly powerful, because according to Genesis, Enoch did not die like ordinary humans. He walked with God, then he was no more, because God took him. That single cryptic line opened the door to centuries of speculation. Who was Enoch? What did he supposedly see? And why did ancient writers associate him with hidden heavenly knowledge? The Book of Enoch attempted to answer those questions with visions unlike almost anything found in the traditional Bible. The text begins with one of the most unsettling stories in ancient religious literature. A group of heavenly beings known as the Watchers descend from heaven to earth. Unlike distant angels carrying out divine commands, these beings become fascinated by humanity itself. According to the text, they take human wives, reveal forbidden secrets, and corrupt the world through knowledge humanity was never meant to possess. And the consequences become catastrophic. The Watchers teach humans warfare, metalworking, astrology, enchantments, weapon creation, cosmetics, and hidden sciences. Violence spreads across civilization, greed intensifies, humanity descends into chaos, then something even stranger happens. Their offspring are born, the Nephilim, enormous hybrid giants who consume vast amounts of food, devastate the land, and bring destruction wherever they go. Ancient writers described them almost like forces of nature, symbols of corruption growing beyond control. The earth itself cries out under the weight of violence and bloodshed. To later readers, the imagery felt almost apocalyptic. And eventually, divine judgment arrives. According to the text, God commands the archangels to imprison the rebellious Watchers beneath the earth until the final judgment, while a coming flood will wipe away the corrupted world above. Suddenly, the story of Noah transforms into something far larger than a simple flood narrative. It becomes a cosmic punishment tied to fallen angels, forbidden knowledge, and the collapse of civilization itself. The imagery fascinated ancient audiences because it answered questions the Book of Genesis only hinted at briefly. Genesis mentions mysterious sons of God taking human women and producing the Nephilim, but offers almost no detail. The Book of Enoch expanded that tiny passage into an enormous supernatural drama involving heaven, rebellion, corruption, and judgment. And ancient readers paid attention. Fragments of the Book of Enoch were discovered among the Dead Sea Scrolls, proving the text circulated widely among Jewish communities before and during the early Christian era. Some early Christians knew the book well. In fact, the New Testament epistle of Jude directly references a prophecy attributed to Enoch. For a time, the text carried enormous influence. But influence did not guarantee survival. As Judaism and Christianity evolved, religious authorities gradually debated which writings should be considered sacred scripture and which should remain outside official canon. Different communities accepted different books. Some embraced Enoch's visions. Others viewed the text with suspicion because of its strange cosmology and elaborate angelology. Over time, most branches of Judaism excluded it entirely. Most Christian traditions eventually did the same. But the Book of Enoch never vanished completely. In Ethiopia, the text survived for centuries inside the canon of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, while much of the rest of the world forgot about it almost entirely. Medieval Europe preserved only fragments and references. The complete text seemed almost legendary, like a lost relic from a forgotten religious world. Then came the 18th century. A Scottish explorer named James Bruce traveled through Ethiopia and returned to Europe carrying ancient Ge'ez manuscripts containing the full Book of Enoch. For many scholars, it was an astonishing rediscovery. A text referenced by ancient writers, but largely lost for centuries, had survived hidden in plain sight. And once people began reading it again, the mystery exploded. Because the Book of Enoch did not sound like ordinary scripture, its visions were massive, cosmic, and deeply symbolic. Enoch journeys through heavenly realms. He witnesses prisons for fallen angels, fiery mountains, celestial structures, and strange astronomical systems governing the heavens. Angels guide him through layered visions of judgment, destruction, and the fate of humanity. To religious scholars, the text revealed how ancient Jewish apocalyptic thought evolved before Christianity. But to modern conspiracy theorists, the book became something else entirely. Some claimed the Watchers were extraterrestrials disguised as angels. Others argued the Nephilim were evidence of ancient hybrid beings erased from official history. Internet theories connected Enoch to lost civilizations, forbidden technologies, giant skeleton myths, and secret knowledge hidden from humanity. Part of the fascination came from how visual the text feels. Unlike abstract theology, Enoch describes towering beings descending from the heavens. Cosmic journeys across impossible landscapes and terrifying supernatural punishments. It reads less like philosophy and more like witnessing ancient people trying to explain forces beyond human understanding. And because the book was excluded from most biblical canons, many assumed suppression must mean hidden truth. But historians point out a more complicated reality. Ancient religious communities debated countless texts during the formation of scripture. Some writings were excluded because they appeared too late historically. Others because they conflicted with evolving doctrine. Some were simply less widely accepted across communities. Exclusion did not always mean conspiracy. Still, the Book of Enoch remained controversial for understandable reasons. Its portrayal of angels was radically different from later mainstream traditions. Instead of purely obedient servants of God, the Watchers become flawed beings capable of desire, rebellion, and catastrophic mistakes. The text also presented a vast supernatural universe filled with hidden structures and cosmic judgment operating behind ordinary reality. For many religious authorities seeking theological stability, such material could become dangerous if interpreted too literally, especially during eras when religious unity shaped political power. As Christianity spread across empires, leaders increasingly emphasized standardized doctrine. Wildly mystical interpretations risked creating fragmentation and competing belief systems. Texts like Enoch survived on the edges of tradition but rarely entered the center of official teaching. Yet the themes inside the book never truly disappeared. The idea of forbidden knowledge corrupting humanity echoes across cultures constantly. Ancient myths often warn about humans gaining power too quickly. Fire stolen from the gods, forbidden fruit in Eden, secret knowledge bringing destruction instead of wisdom. The Book of Enoch transforms that pattern into one enormous cosmic narrative. And strangely, many of its themes still feel modern. Fear of dangerous technology, anxiety about knowledge outpacing morality, the collapse of civilization through corruption and violence, humanity struggling with powers it cannot fully control. That may explain why the story continues attracting attention thousands of years later. Because beneath the angels and giants lies a deeper human fear. What happens when knowledge arrives before wisdom? In the modern world, the Book of Enoch exists in a strange place between religion, mythology, conspiracy theory, and ancient literature. Scholars study it to understand the evolution of early Jewish and Christian thought. Believers debate its spiritual significance. Online theorists reinterpret its symbols through science fiction and ancient astronaut narratives. And the mystery keeps growing because the text itself feels unfinished, like a fragment from a larger lost world. A world where ancient people imagined heaven not as a peaceful abstraction, but as a terrifying cosmic realm filled with judgment, rebellion, hidden forces, and beings that crossed boundaries they were never meant to cross. The most haunting part of the story is that the Watchers never intended to leave permanently. According to the text, they descended because they desired humanity and the earth itself. But once corruption spread, they became trapped between heaven and the world they helped destroy. Their punishment was not only imprisonment, it was exile. And somewhere in the deserts where fragments of Enoch survived for centuries beneath dust and stone, the memory of those fallen beings continued whispering through history long after most of the world forgot their names.